time to welcome on board Nilesh Jain, Head Derivatives and Technical Research at Centrum Broking on the technicals, and we have Ravinder and Gaurav joining us once again from our in-house research team. Good afternoon to you, Nilesh, and let's come to you for the first stock. M&M is a stock that you've picked out for us. Tell us what's the outlook when it comes to this auto major. The stock has seen quite some bit of an action in the last 3 months, 6 months as well. So what's the outlook and what are the next levels that you're spotting when it comes to M&M?
Very good afternoon to you. And if you look at the Nifty auto space, first of all, we have seen a good momentum today. And within this space, Mahindra and Minda looking attractive. Reason being, the stock has witnessed 22% fresh OI build up on the long side. And number two, the stock has also reclaimed its 200 exponential moving average. Along with that, 50-day moving average has already been surpassed. The momentum indicators and oscillators have given a buy crossover. And the stock has also given a good breakout above its March month's high. So looking at all these parameters, we are expecting a follow-up move in this particular counter towards the levels of 3000 to 3050, and with a stop loss below 2840, Mahindra and Minda can be bought at present level.
Okay, so that's M&M, but let's move on and talk about Emami Finance now. This is on the back of their quarter four earnings coming in. It's seeming like a it's a bad set of numbers, poor set rather, because they've missed street estimates. Net interest income is up 6.4% to 1,927.7 crores compared to 1,802 crores. The estimate here was above 2,000 crores, so miss on that front. PPOP, which is your operating income, is also up 3.4% to 1,213 crores. Slight miss coming in from the expectation of 1,300 crores. When you talk about net profit, that's taken a hit of 9% on a year-on-year basis. That's come in at 563 crores. The estimate was 628 crores, so miss on that front. And their asset quality also in terms of GNPA has come in at 3.7% compared to 3.9%. So while that has deteriorated, that looks good. And NIMs have come in at 6.5% compared to 6.6%. Slight bit of a decline from the estimate of 6.6%. Lastly, let's talk about disbursement. That's up 2% to 15,530 crores versus 15,292 crores. So only a mild uptick coming in disbursement on a year-on-year basis. That has taken a hit, and on the back of that, the numbers have missed street estimates, and a 2.5% cut coming in on the stock as we speak.
Alright, moving on, let's put the spotlight on Lupin Pharma, as the company has received an approval from the Department of Pharmaceuticals, Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers, Government of India, under the Foreign Exchange Management Rules 2019 for the potential increase of aggregate foreign investments in Cohance Life above 74% subsequent to the scheme of amalgamation. That's the news flow on Lupin Pharma. For now, the stock is holding on with the gains of 1.7%.
The news flow coming in on Lupin Pharma, and why that stock is in focus. Gaurav, we've picked out two stocks from the real estate pack. The real estate pack is also in focus today. Prestige and Brigade are the two stocks that you've picked out. Tell us why and what's the news for you?
Yes, Prestige and Brigade, both stocks are in focus today, and the reason being that Nuvama has penciled in the note, not just for these two stocks but for the entire industry. What they're saying is that FY25, when we look at the entire year, now it is ending on a softer note, as housing sales by value has inched down almost by 3% on a year-on-year basis. In terms of March itself, the launches have continued their downgrade and they have dropped almost by 14% during the month. By value, when we look at the housing demand, that has increased almost by 9% in FY25, with luxury and premium housing segments doing very well, because when we talk about Q1 CY25, the demand has surged as high as 30% in the cities like NCR and Calcutta, while launches have risen almost by 7%. But when we talk about volume absorption, that has decreased almost by 6%. But from here on, what they are believing is that the realty stocks are now at an attractive level from medium-term perspective, in the light of rising consolidation and in the recent price correction, which also gives an opportunity for investors. And even within the real estate pack, they are actually bullish on Prestige Estate and Brigade, because that remains as one of their top picks in the housing space. Definitely, as a result, when we talk about stock performance, both the stocks are up in trade, and on back of this, we will be also watching out on the entire real estate as well as these two stocks.
Alright, moving on to the next stock. Let's also talk about Tata Communications. Ravinder, tell us how are the earnings coming in for Tata Communications in Q4?
Well, as Tata Communication has announced its Q4 number, and the company registered a revenue growth of 3.3% quarter-on-quarter basis at rupees 5,990 crore, whereas PAT has increased from 236 crore to 1,041 crore quarter-on-quarter basis, and EBITDA saw a decline of 5% quarter-on-quarter basis from 1181 crore to 1122 crore, and EBITDA margin also saw a decline of 150 basis point quarter-on-quarter basis, and board also recommended a final dividend of rupees 25 per equity shares. And there are also some other news coming in where Tata Communication Limited has incorporated a wholly owned step-down subsidiary, TC Shanghai Network Service Corporate Limited, and board has also approved the proposal of raising of fund through issuance of new share to venture capitalists.
Okay, that's the reason Tata Com is in focus on the back of its earnings. The stock a little bit in the red right now. Let's just focus and talk about a stock that was doing pretty well for itself, and I'm assuming it's holding up pretty well right now as well. It's Oruro Pharma. Positive news flow coming in. They've announced that their subsidiary, which is UGR Pharma Specialties Limited, has received the final approval from the US FDA to manufacture and market the dasatinib tablets used to treat leukemia, which is the bioequivalent to the Sprycel tablets by Bristol Myers Squibb. The product, expected to launch in Q1 of FY26, targets a market estimated at $1.8 billion, and this approval marks the 181st ANDA approval for UGR Pharma, enhancing its position in the oncology sector and potentially impacting stakeholders positively by expanding its product offerings in the US market as well. Very positive news flow coming in. You can see the way the stock has spiked, and almost at the day's highest point, it's where it's sitting right now, a 4.5% uptick on Aurobindo Pharma as we speak.
Alright, that's about Aurobindo Pharma, but let's put the spotlight on Nestle, because why this counter is in focus. Let's also talk about that, because Nestle is one of the counters which will come out with the earnings, I believe.
In focus on the back of its earnings, let's talk about what kind of quarter we are expecting from Nestle. Largely flat to muted to weak is what we could say for Nestle, because there are some metrics that are expected to be flat, but some of them in the negative. On a standalone basis, revenue is expected at 5,493 crores, which is up 4.3% on a year-on-year basis. EBITDA is seen at 1,325 crores, which is a downtick of almost 2%. PAT is also expected to fall a whole lot of 8% on a year-on-year basis. So this is where the pressure point lies for Nestle, and PAT is also seen at 860 crores. Margins are also expected to shrink 24.1% compared to 25.4%. So basically that's what the outlook for Nestle is. Volumes you were seeing.
It's a volume growth at 3% is
Absolutely.
what the street is expecting in, and PAT is expected to be a bit under pressure. So let's watch out for that. But believe that you will be having a bit of a hectic day.
Well, my hands are going to be full tomorrow. You have HUL as well as Nestle, two nifty companies back-to-back earnings tomorrow. But well, just gear up. We're looking forward to it.
Well, yes, absolutely. Today is Tata Consumers, and then is Nestle and HUL. Let's watch out for that. But all eyes on Hero MotoCorp as well. And let's go across to Gaurav to find out why this counter is in focus today. Gaurav?
It is also up in trade today, and the reason being that now Aether Industries, Aether Energies, my apologies, is coming up with the IPO. Now IPO is going to open from April of 28 and it will close on 30th of April. Issue will open for anchor investors from 25th of April, and with this issue now shareholders including founder and GIC Singapore are going to sell their units. Now offer for sale for this IPO is going to be somewhere in the range of 11 million shares for the shareholders, and Axis Capital, HSBC and JM Financials are likely to be the bankers. Now this IPO is going to be a mix of fresh issue and the offer for sale. Now for fresh issue they will be selling equity worth 2,626 crore rupees, so it's a huge amount when we talk about this year itself, and the price range is going to be somewhere in the range of 304 to 321 rupees. Now why this is important for Hero Motor is that Hero Motor is Aether's biggest shareholder and they have around 37.2% stake, and they will be not be participating in the offer for sale, and as a result when we talk about stock performance, it is up in trade today. So definitely watching out on Hero Motors on the back of the upcoming IPO of Aether Energies.
Okay, so all eyes are going to be on that, and on the back of that, Hero Motors also in focus. Nilesh, coming to you, Lodha or Macrotech Developers is the stock that you've picked out for us. Now the stock has seen quite some market action on moves coming in on the charts over the last 6 months, 1 year. very decent gains also coming in terms of stock price, and the earnings are also tomorrow on the fundamental side. Last 6 months itself, the stock is up by 25%. What's your outlook on the charts now for Macrotech?
Lotha, this particular stock has witnessed good momentum in last couple of trading sessions now, and today as well. In between, we saw a market witness some bit of selling pressure, but this particular counter stand out and witnessing a bit of an outperformance within the reality pack. So, looking at the recent momentum, and also if you look at the derivative data where we have witnessed a huge amount of short covering today, and given the kind of a breakout that we have seen, I think the stock is poised for another rally towards 1400 to 1450 on the upside. So with the stop loss below 1330, Lotha is a buy for upside target of 1400 to 1450.
Alright, that's about Macrotech developers. But with this, viewers, it's now time to slip into a very short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more on the other side.
Hi there, welcome back to Market Fatafat. Let's keep it going with all the big buzzers in today's trade, and yet another earnings candidate. AU Small Finance Bank numbers came yesterday, and Rabindra, take us through what the earnings fine print looks like.
Well, as AU Small Finance Bank is in focus, our company has announced its Q4 number, and the NII saw an uptick of 4% quarter-on-quarter basis, and PPOP also saw an uptick of 7% quarter-on-quarter basis, whereas PAT declined by 5% quarter-on-quarter basis, and the credit cost in card rose to 16% from 11% quarter-on-quarter basis, and credit cost rose sharply from 13% to 14% on MFI quarter-on-quarter basis. And also management commentary coming in where they say that the guidance is for an elevated credit cost in H1 but an improve in H2 FY26, and the credit cost shall settle at lower 85 basis point in FY26 versus 1.3% year-on-year basis, and the credit cost fall to 6 to 7% from 16% in Q4 FY25 on the card and 3.5% in MFI. And so the weak set of number of AU Small Finance Bank, but the management commentary on credit cost is positive. So back of this stock is up 10%.
Alright, thank you so much, Ravinder, for getting us all those details. But Nilesh, the next stock that you're tracking is CG Power. Help us understand that what exactly are you looking at when it comes to technicals?
Right, so CG Power, an interesting setup here. If you look at, if you just pull up last 3 month chart, you can see the stock was consolidating in a very tight range where it was facing constant resistance at 660 mark, and on the lower side 520, 510 is acting as a very strong support. So now the stock has given a good breakout from its falling trend line today, and apart from that the stock is trading well above its 200 exponential moving average as well. So given this kind of setup, we are expecting a follow-up move in this particular counter towards 675 to 700. So these are the levels on the upside one can eye for from a short-term perspective, and support for this particular stock is placed at 640. So that should be the stop loss.
Okay, so those are the levels to watch out for on CG Power. But Nilesh, Astral is also something that you've picked out for us, a stock that we don't commonly discuss on the show. Last 1 month, the stock is up 7%. However, last 6 months, it's seen a sharp cut of 21%. So a little bit of a recovery from there, but not all that good is something that's looking on the charts right now. Deep cuts coming in last 3 months as well. Another cut of 6%. So what's the outlook on the charts? Do you believe that the correction is over and now time for a reversal?
In past 6 to 8 months, we have seen a constant decline in this particular counter, which started from the month of July 2024, where the stock hit a high above 2400, and since then we have seen a constant decline of formation of a lower top and lower bottom formation as well. Now this particular negative formation was negated yesterday, where this particular counter has taken off its previous swing high, and it has formed a kind of a short-term bottom on the chart. So looking at the overall setup, we can expect this pullback to extend further towards 1500 to 1550. Although we are not expecting any V-shaped recovery, but yes, a gradual up move from here can be seen. The risk and reward looks favorable. The stock is available at a very corrective price. So 1350 should be the stop loss for the long position, and momentum can take this particular stock towards 1480 to 1500.
Alright, moving on, let's put the spotlight on the auto counters, because what we are getting to hear from agencies is that India is considering zero tariffs on Harley-Davidson bike in the US in the terms of the bilateral talks that are still going on between India and US, and the government is mulling to actually scrap the import duties on the motorbikes with engine capacity of over 750cc or more. On the back of that, one such stock that is in spotlight is definitely Hero MotoCorp. Why so? Because the company has an agreement with Hero MotoCorp for their dealerships in Indian markets. If we look at Eicher Motors and Bajaj Auto, they don't have any sort of a impact on these counters coming in because they don't have a presence rather in 750cc and above segment. Eicher Motor does have plans to launch one actually, but that will be in the latter half of this particular financial year, while for Bajaj Auto there's hardly any presence. So on the back of this report, well, Hero MotoCorp is indeed one of the counters that is in focus, and that's up around 2% in trade as we speak right now.
Okay, so all eyes on auto stocks right now, but let's move ahead. And Nilesh, you've picked up Lupin for us. Now, last 1 year, the stock saw a massive uptick of 32%. But ever since then, it's not been doing all that much. Last 6 months flat, last 1 month also slightly of a cut coming in. What are the levels that you're watching on the chart now?
Well, Lupin, if you just look at this particular stock, this has been a third consecutive session. We have seen a constant up move. Now, although on the monthly time frame chart looks like more sort of a consolidation, but on daily time frame chart, the stock has witnessed a good momentum in last 3-4 consecutive sessions, and this particular counter looks like heading towards 2150 to 2200 on the chart. It is trading well above its 200 exponential moving average, and also given a good breakout from a falling trend line as well. So purely from a short term perspective, we are expecting a follow-up move to continue in this particular stock towards 2150 to 2200 with a stop loss below 2040. Lupin can be bought.
Alright, that's about Lupin. But with this, viewers, we are completely out of time in this edition of Market Farafat. Thank you so much, Ravinder and Gaurav, as well as Nilesh, for joining us today and highlighting all the buzzes in trade right now. It's a goodbye from me and Snehi and the entire team who put this show together. Thanks so much for tuning in.